Good morning. How's everyone doing?
How are you doing, Grandpa?
Doing great. Doing great. Heading up this next weekend. That is if it all works out with Pastor Leland. Cover next weekend and hopefully the weekend after that too. We don't know how long we'll get to stay up there. But next weekend is the baptism. Get to do that. So looking forward to that.
We're going up Thursday too. If you get the baptism.
Yeah, and of course Rachel's got a lot of family that will be there, so we'll take up a good portion of that church, I think.
Are you doing it where your son has been serving?
Well, you know, he served in field work for a couple years and then at his vicarage, which was down Cape Girardeau. They moved back now for his last year classes. And I'll do some more circuit or field work there. And it's at that vicarage. The one where he served before vicarage and he'll serve.
Vicarage Church is not having the baptism.
What's that?
The Vicarage.
No, they moved back now, yeah. Which, you know, it was really fun for Rachel, who had one doctor during most of her pregnancy and had to get a different one for delivery when they moved back.
What hospital does she have?
I don't know. She should be released today. I think it was, what did I say, St. Mary's? Near the...
St. Mary's is right there.
Right, yeah, I think it's that one.
He'll make me walk there. Come back and sit down.
I don't think I better comment on that.
Our parking lot was farther away than our apartment.
Yeah, their apartment is right next to that big gas station that's right at the intersection there. They're like right behind that. The Cheshire area, they're like right there.
It helps your labors. It's funny because we had to cross a major thoroughfare.
Yeah, so I think we're going to go by Opa and Oma.
Good one.
Yeah.
Very good.
Well, Jen was she was thinking about Amuela, and I said, well, I can't spell that, so.
What?
Oma.
That's German.
Opama. I can manage that.
Opie?
Not Opie. Not Mayberry.
Sorry. Okay.
Anyone else have anything to share?
Well, since you asked,
Yeah, I saw that.
you know, up in Belleville, the liquor store is in the strip center, and right next to it is
There's a church.
There's a church, Baptist church.
Mm-hmm.
So I was coming out of Zip the other day, and the pastor of the Baptist church comes out there and he said, "Wayne, why are you cradling that bottle of bourbon in your arm? Don't you know that alcohol is the greatest enemy you have?" I said, "Well, the Bible tells me to do this." He said, "How's that?" The Bible says, "Love your enemies." Oh, man.
That's okay.
Where's the drug?
Yeah, and I don't think you know the pastor of the Baptist church there anyway, yeah.
I don't think so.
Brother Jedekiah.
Right, sure. All right. Anyone have anything productive to add?
We brought Paul's brother James.
Good to have you. And for those of you who don't know, James helps out with things around here on Mondays. Yeah. Susan's really excited about that. Well, let's go ahead and start. Lord, we thank you for the day. We thank you for this opportunity to once again get into your word. And Lord, for you to feed us here, both in Bible classes and in worship. And we just pray this day that we may be a positive influence of those around us, to lift your name on high so that you are glorified through all things. In Christ's name. As far as class next week, that will be up to Pastor as well. We won't go online, so nothing online next week, and maybe the week after we'll work that out, but we'll let you know. So I don't know. If you all want to do class or not, or you want to take a week or two off, It's up to you and Pastor.
We will do it with pastors.
Anyway, I'll send out an email to you all on where to go. Not to put you on the spot, but you're on the spot. Anyway, we are at chapter 7, verse 2. We covered a little bit of this last time, but we have to back up to 2 because it wouldn't make sense context-wise. 2.
Make room in your hearts for us. We have wronged no one. We have corrupted no one. We have taken advantage of no one. I do not say this to condemn you, for I said before that you are in our hearts, to die together, to live together. I'm acting with great boldness towards you. I have great pride in you. I am filled with comfort. In all our affliction, I am overflowing with joy. All right, any
Comments on that? And why do you think you say this? Well, again, who is it that he is trying to guard them against?
Well, those guys that were trying to...
To subvert, right. The ones who are trying to subvert the congregation and subvert Paul and his ministry with that. So trying to put Paul and all of those with him down as saying, hey, his suffering, his persecution is evidence that, God's not with him, and he is constantly having to come back to them and show them his heart and that they are his heart and he should be a part of theirs. So he's building himself up, he's defending himself with them. Remember that they are his witness. They are his recommendation. They don't need letters of recommendation. You are my letters of recommendation. And if this is a furtherance to that same thing.
It makes you sort of suspicious, wondering, here he's building himself up, and also them up with these good words. Is he gonna zing up now?
Paul does do that on occasion, doesn't he? He lifts them up and then he's like,
he gives a little dig.
But he doesn't really do that
in this section. All right, let's continue.
Verse 5. For even when we came into Macedonia, remember Macedonia is much further north, our bodies had no rest, but we were afflicted at every turn, fighting without and fear within. But God, who comforts the downcast, comforted us by the coming of Titus, and not only by his coming, but also by the comfort with which he was comforted by you, as he told us of your longing, your mourning, your zeal for me, so that I rejoice still more. So, he's given this aspect. He was away, Titus came to them, and there's some reports that he wanted Titus to bring to the congregation, and the congregation bringing it to him through Titus. So he's kind of talking about that back and forth there. 4:8. Even if I made you grieve with my letter. Those are his letter of saying, hey, look, you got to step up and do what's right. Put this one sinner out of your midst for a time to bring back. But he had some hard words for them before. He said, even if I made you grieve with my letter, I do not regret it. No, I did regret it, for I see that the letter grieved you, but only for a while. But as it is, I rejoice not because you were grieved, but because you were grieved into repenting. For you felt a godly grief, so that you suffered no loss through us.
Reactions. Yes. The godly grief. That godly grief. So what is godly grief? He's going to get into it a little bit more.
Call it being convicted of your sin.
Say it again.
The Baptists say it's being convicted of your sin.
Being convicted of your sin. Okay, but does it just end with the convicting of sin?
No, because when you feel this great burden of conviction, you have to fall on your knees and beg for forgiveness.
Okay. Yes. Does it end there?
Well, no, then you got to take up your cross and follow him.
You're changed.
Yeah. So they're looking for that change of heart and that renewal. And it means
being able to then stand up and move forward,
Right.
right? Not be debilitated, not neither justifying the past nor being debilitated by it, but receive that forgiveness, move forward.
I think a lot of us, myself anyway, have a problem with leaving it in the past. Even though we were told that God forgives and forgets, it's hard for us.
Yeah, how many times do we confess the same sin? Not the same sin that we commit over and over, but the one when we commit one and we confess that one over and over.
I think that's the devil at work, isn't it?
I think it is too. I think it is one of the devil's tricks to continually to remind us of those things. Because once it is confessed, once the Lord forgives that, and He says He remembers our sin no more, and we're going back and we're confessing again. He's like, "What are you talking about?" Right? That was done. That's gone.
Is it also possible on a human level? It's like, how in the world can he not at least somewhere hold a grudge against that?
Yeah, that's the way we think, because that's the way our heart works. Because we keep grudges.
And surely I need to make up for it by doing something.
Well, penance, yeah. So the whole aspect of penance now is it a bad thing to try to make up for wrong? No, absolutely not. And you should do that. If you can, you should.
Yeah. Paul says, if I owe anybody anything, I will.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. What is wrong is if you think that is the way that you get forgiveness.
That's
Right?
also-
If you think that's God will only forgive you if you do these things. If you are pious, if you are that has nothing to do with it. We don't do good. We don't try to rectify to get sin. We do them because we have been forgiven of sin. It's a whole motivation and change of heart thing. That's the difference between godly grief and a grief that leads to produces death, and that's the next part here. Anything else there? I rejoice that you grieved into repentance. I see that as like when you discipline your kids, right? They don't enjoy it. You don't enjoy doing it, but you do it because you know what it produces. It produces some growth. It produces something better. That's what you're hoping for. Yeah. And that's why that Scripture tells us, God only disciplines those He loves. Right? Being disciplined by God is a sign of His love. That He wants better for us. He wants better from us.
That's comforting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because it's not an aspect of, God's out there to get us. He wants more abundant, right?
It's hard to tell a child, this will hurt me
Yeah.
more than it hurts you.
They don't believe it. They don't believe it. Doesn't make it less so, though. Right. And Scripture even says no discipline is appreciated at the time, but, it is what it produces is appreciated. Okay. But because you were grieved into repentance, that is, that you're growing from this. That's what I was happy about, that my letter, even though it hurt for a little bit, it produced something good. Good from you. 10. Yeah.
It just brought the sorrow back. It's because you're grieving, and then the letter just more or less brought it back up. But then it was to find comfort in that grievance.
Like any of us, there's times that we have been disciplined. You can look back and appreciate the fact that you were. And you see this certainly in kids all the time. It is pretty easy to tell when you go into a store and someone has kids that are coming along there, which ones are disciplined and which ones are not.
right? That's a pretty easy thing to do. So the ones who are never told no, it's easy to see, and they are going to have a really hard time in life. Yeah.
Is this the same church where the man was living with his?
Yes. Yeah, that's what we saw in 1 Corinthians, and is reference to then 2 Corinthians. Yeah. All right, 10.
For godly grief produces a repentance that leads to salvation without regret, whereas worldly grief produces death. Any comments on that?
So you have a choice between life and death.
Let's say again.
You have a choice between life and death.
You have a choice between life and death,
and that goes all the way back. You can see in Joshua. We'll cover that in a couple Sundays. Choose this day whom you will serve. Right? As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Joshua 24.
Yeah. Worldly grief produces death. What does that mean?
You beat yourself to death.
Yeah, you get into that aspect of despair. Or the other extreme, if you justify yourself, you think that it's no big deal, that you are drawing away from God intentionally too. Both of those are not ways of life. Both of those lead to death.
Well, there's no resolution with worldly grief.
Yeah,
and you can see worldly grief. What benefit does it bring?
There's no benefit in death.
There's no benefit there.
Not a worldly death.
11.
Foresee, I tell you, I have this way up here in my Bible. Foresee what earnestness this godly grief has produced in you, but also what earnestness, eagerness to clear yourselves. What indignation, what fear, what longing, what zeal, what punishment. At every point, you have proved yourselves innocent in the matter. So although I wrote to you, it was not for the sake of the one who did the wrong, nor for sake of the one who suffered wrong, but in order that your earnestness for us might be revealed to you in the sight of God. Therefore, we are comforted. In other words, he's not saying that there wasn't benefit for the one who sinned or the one who was wronged, but that wasn't. He's saying that's not my primary aspect of what I wrote to you. It was for your hearts and for your repentance, for your aspect in this.
If that man ever returned to the church?
It looks like he did. I mean, we don't know for certain, but certainly the way that 2 Corinthians starts out, Paul says, look, forgive them, I already have, and stuff, and bring them back in, and stuff. Yeah, so it appears that has been the case. Anything else on that part? The next paragraph, verse 13. Right. Yeah, he said.
If they hadn't done that, they would have continued in their sin.
Right. Well, not only
in their sin, but in their.
The church would have been contaminated.
Well, yeah, because part of what you wrote was that they were not just tolerating, but they were celebrating, and they were enduring this sin, saying it's no big deal, it's not and it's like no, that's not a good thing either, right? That's not discipline.
Next paragraph. Besides our own comfort, we rejoice still more at the joy of Titus, because his spirit has been refreshed by y'all. I don't know why translations don't just put it. It's by y'all. It's you plural. For whatever boasts I made to him about you, I was not put to shame. But just as everything we said to you was true, so also our boasting before Titus has proved true. And his affection for you is even greater, as he remembers the obedience of y'all, how you received him with fear and trembling. I rejoice because I have complete confidence in you. All right, so
what is he saying in that section? Titus obviously went to them in some of his absence. He had told Titus about the congregation. The congregation knew about Titus. And when he told Titus about the congregation, he lifted them up. He lifted the congregation. Hey, look, you're going to find some people. Yeah, they're having some struggles, but there are people whose heart are for you, or for the Lord, and they're going to welcome you, and he's building them up. And he's happy that Titus found them that way. That they were found to be the way that Paul had described them, and not like, bickering back and forth and fighting and ones that were wrong. So he's celebrating the fact, hey, Titus came to you, he found what I just told him. And he was edified by this too, so it was a building up process. It's a good thing.
At least it wasn't a surprise.
It was no surprise. Yeah. What about this? Received him with fear and trembling. Phobos and tremors. Phobos, fears, and tremors. Trembling. That always seems kind of strange, doesn't it? Fear and trembling.
It probably means respect.
I think it's respect, or maybe anxious. Anxious, I think, is a good word to sum it up. You can be good anxious, you can be bad. You're just like, I don't know what to expect, right? And I think that's kind of we're sure of what to expect in this situation, and they're just anxious.
And this is about Titus.
Yeah. Yeah, when Titus was sent to them, and they're like, I don't know, we've heard about this Titus dude, we've heard about, these people, and, what are we to expect, and how are they going to view us? Certainly he's been told about the situation among us and how we deal with things. And is he going to scold us? Is he going to, what's going to happen?
No, let him ask first.
I rejoice because I have complete confidence in you. A good thing.
Titus wrote one of the books. Does it refer to his visit to the Corinthians, or is it about something else?
I don't believe so. Titus and Timothy, they're called the pastoral epistles. And they deal a lot with overseers and pastors and stuff. But I don't believe there's a reference.
The book of Titus was written by Titus or to Titus?
I believe it was written to Titus. But you know what? I'm not sure. I don't remember. I'll look at that.
Oh, that's the first sign of grandpa. Don't remember.
I do not recall. And doing this? All right.
You laugh now.
I know I've needed a new prescription for a while, but I've had bifocals for quite a while anyway. Anything else on this section? Chapter 8.
We want you to know, brothers and sisters, about the grace of God that has been given among the churches of Macedonia. Remember, where's Macedonia? Up in the northern section? Yeah. For in a severe test of affliction, their abundance of joy and their extreme poverty have overflowed in a wealth of generosity on their part. For they gave according to their means, as I can testify, and beyond their means of their own accord, begging us earnestly for the favor of taking part in the relief of the saints. The favor of taking part in the release of the saints. And this not as we expected, but they gave themselves first to the Lord, and then by the will of God to us. Accordingly, we urge Titus that as he had started, so he should complete among you this act of grace. But as you excel in everything, in faith and speech and knowledge and all earnestness, and in your love, in our love for you, see that you excel in this act of grace also.
Is that his mission festival sermon?
That could be a good mission festival sermon, sure. Or a good stewardship sermon.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. Or, just helping other churches in time of need. Like a couple years ago, I think we sent some of our quarterly giving to some congregations in Dallas area that had some tornado damage. Things like that. Or when hurricanes, and Angie and stuff took ones to some congregations in Louisiana. I forget which hurricanes those were, but there were a couple of them. Things like that. That's what he's talking about.
And this giving was for the church in Jerusalem. I mean,
We have definite ones of
when the Jerusalem needed something like that. So, but it's kind of unclear here on if he's talking about taking it for them. The context later from here specifies that, yeah, they took a gift for Jerusalem, and he's asking Corinth to do that also. They gave according to their means and beyond their means of their own accord, begging us earnestly for the favor of taking part in the relief of the saints. That is a great line. It's you get kind of the in the throne room. Who will I send and who will go first? Here I am, send me. Right? It's like I want to help. I want to be a part. I want to give. I don't have much, but I want to give. I want to help somehow. It's a beautiful thing. How about verse 5? They gave themselves first to the Lord, and then by the will of God to us. That's the right priority there. That's what it's about. Give themselves wholly to the Lord, and then from that will come fruits that benefit others too.
pray about it, then do it.
And then do it. Yeah. So don't just talk about it. But if you started this, see it to completion. Do it.
Yeah. He's going to say more about giving here in a little bit. All right, nothing else on that? Verse 8 then?
I say this not as a command, but to prove by the earnestness of others that your love also is genuine. For you know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, that though he was rich, yet for your sake he became poor, so that you, by his poverty, might become rich. Okay, what's he referring to there? The incarnation. Christ, emptying himself, having the riches of heaven itself, and he comes down and is born in a manger. Doesn't live in a palace even on earth. Empties himself. What's that?
How old would Jesus be at this time?
How old would he have been at this time? About 50, about my age. Yeah.
But a lot wiser.
Well, since he's the Son of God, yeah.
Amen.
Thank goodness.
Oh dear.
Keeping you on your toes.
And you gonna be with him?
Yeah, they're going to be up in the baptism too, but we're riding in separate vehicles. Okay, so just, because they're going back up to Iowa and Wisconsin afterwards.
All right. Where are we? What verse? 10. And in this matter, I give you my judgment. This benefits you, who a year ago started not only to do this work, but also to desire to do it. So now finish doing it as well, so that your readiness in desiring it may be matched by your completing it out of what you have. And let's pause there. So what does he mean by this year ago?
It's not quite as, well, it doesn't make any difference to what this is about, but the Jewish calendar starts on a different time than the Roman calendar. Roman calendar in January. The Jewish calendar would have been, I think it's like September 21st or beginning of October, something around there. You know, if he's talking about a year ago, they're in the new year, because this is probably in the autumn, so he's probably in the beginning of the new year. The last year would have been the last time he was there, which is probably like the last spring or so. It doesn't really make a huge difference, but likely.
So it's a fiscal year.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the fiscal year. The fiscal and the Jewish calendar, yeah, the same thing.
Well, as usual, Paul throws in something that doesn't make any difference, really.
Yeah, well, it doesn't make any difference to us.
Obviously, it must have made a difference to them. He's like, well, you know, I mean, well, let's say that, you know, like, let's say the Billings were here last November or October on furlough. I don't remember when it was, but, and then they came again in the spring. And they said, hey, last year when I visited you, it wasn't a whole year ago, but it was the previous, you know, it was previous calendar for us. Similar type of thing.
So the Jewish calendar, the September 21st date, was that when they departed Egypt? Is that based on that?
I have to look back in Exodus for that. And of course their names are different too. There's Nisan and there's all these other names. But Rosh Hashanah is, you know, the beginning of the Jewish calendar. And I forget what year they're at now. I want to say in the 5,000s or something. I don't know. All right, verse. Now finish by doing it well. We're writing this. Okay, verse 12. 12.
For if the readiness is there, it is acceptable according to what a person has, not according to what he does not have. For I do not mean that others should be eased and you burdened, but that as a matter of fairness, your abundance at their present time should supply their need, so that their abundance may supply your need, that there may be fairness. As it is written, whoever has gathered much had nothing left over, and whoever gathered little had no lack. All right, let's start with verse 12. What does he mean by verse 12? What is more important? The heart or your stuff? Your heart. So you can have someone who doesn't have much and say, man, I want to help, I want to give, I give what I can, like the widow's mite, right? You know, I give what I can. That's acceptable, that's good. And you shouldn't feel bad, it's like, man, I feel bad that I can't give more, that I can't help more. Your heart is there, you're doing what you can, that's acceptable. You know, don't beat yourself up on that. This is good. This is an acceptable thing. Consequently, if your heart's not there, that's a problem. You can have all the stuff in the world, but if your heart's not there, you know, it's like saying, you know, God doesn't need our money, He wants your heart. You know,
It's like talking about the example that Jesus gives about the Pharisee and the baker that's, one standing in church saying, God is not a good person.
Oh, yeah.
That given.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What was that? Was it a frog? Well, maybe you should have left him in here to get some of the crickets. Or flies. Yeah, the Pharisees, look what I give, and you know, they put in their money to be seen, and out of their wealth, yeah.
And who really gave the giving heart?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting, you get an aspect of, you know, what do you think the two biggest indicators that someone is upset in church and maybe on the verge of leaving? What are your two chief indicators?
Money goes down.
Money,
Yeah, they stop or lower their giving, and the other should be an easy one.
They stop coming.
They stop coming. Yeah. So with their feet in the wallets.
That's usually the way people show their displeasure at church. Now, let me ask you this.
Are either of those good, right, and salutary reasons? No. So if you're not giving or you're not coming because you don't like what they're doing or you want to teach, the pastor or the leadership a lesson, in this, your heart is not there for God.
Just a minute, Bill.
All right, bring it.
I accept that second premise, but what was the first one?
I don't know.
Holding
They
back the money.
disagree with something that's going on.
Okay.
There may be proper disagreements with something that's
It may very well be, but is that the way to address them?
well,
Yeah, and you've heard me before. There was one in a previous congregation of mine, with a pastor previous to my getting there, where the pastor says, "Look, I don't answer to you. I answer to God." He says, "Well, then let God pay you." I mean, was the pastor a good? Did he have some things that were probably wrong? Probably. Was that the way to address it? No.
by neither of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in any of those disputes, are they putting God first?
Yeah, exactly. They're not putting God first, right? Their heart's not there.
They're not putting God first. Exactly.
I mean, you can have all the disagreements, but if it's not God first, then
Yeah. Then maybe it's not something to disagree about.
right.
Yeah.
This aspect, where's this quote coming from in 15? Exodus. What's the situation in Exodus there? It's actually,
Manna.
yes, and that's our Old Testament lesson in the sermon today. So you'll hear more about it. Yeah. So what was the context of that?
If they tried to hoard it, it would go bad.
Right, yeah.
That's what they needed. They always had.
Yeah, if you didn't get enough, there was never a lack, and if you tried to hoard it, and Moses got ticked at them for trying this, because they said, look, you're going to have everything that you need, and there were some who tried to gather more. What happened? Worms and things would eat it, and it stayed.
Unless it was the day before Sabbath.
Unless it was to prepare for the Sabbath, in which they were to gather double amount, and it would keep. How about that?
Well, it wouldn't be natural.
It wouldn't be natural, yeah. Well, and manna itself was manna natural. I mean, I don't know.
It was supposed to be trust in God.
Yeah, it was a lack of trust in God. And trying to hoard and other things is a lack of trust in God.
Save it for rainy day.
Yeah. So he's saying, look, God provides. God provides. All right. Commendation of Titus. Thanks be to God, who put into the heart of Titus the same earnest care I have for you. He not only accepted our appeal, but being himself very earnest, he is going to you of his own accord. He wanted to do this. With him, we are sending the brother who is famous among all the churches for his preaching the gospel. And not only that, but he has been appointed by the churches to travel with us as we carry out this act of grace that is being ministered by us, for the glory of the Lord himself and to show our goodwill. All right, let's pause there. Anything that you want to
Point out or bring up or ask? There's one big question here.
I mean, so it's great that Titus has the same heart. He wants to come, he's got a heart for this and stuff too. But verse 18.
Yeah, is that
Who is it? That's not Titus.
So who is it?
We don't know. He didn't name it.
There's some that say Luke, although that seems unlikely. There are other names that are put forth in different commentaries and stuff. But ultimately, we don't know. It would have been great if Paul had just named him instead of saying, hey, the famous guy that everyone knows.
We don't.
That would be great.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, this person was known and had standing. They knew who he was talking about.
Maybe Barnabas.
Maybe it might be Barnabas.
that's another one of the possibilities. Sosthene, there's a couple other ones that are out there, like, well, sending him the brother who is famous among all the churches for his preaching of the gospel. It wasn't Billy Graham. We don't know.
I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Yeah. But it's like he didn't have any doubt that the church knew exactly who he was talking about. It could have been the status of Peter, although we're not told any aspect of Peter coming to. Although it would be very Pauline-like to not want to mention Peter's name. I don't know. But yeah, we don't know. He has been appointed by the church to travel with us as we carry out this act of grace being ministered to us. Yeah, I would think it wouldn't be Peter because this would not be the type of congregation that you would be called to. But that's possible.
Peter didn't travel that much, did he? He never stayed around Jerusalem, didn't he?
I don't know where. Yeah, I think he stayed mostly in Judea, Samaria, maybe a little bit northern, but yeah, I don't think he ventured much into Asia. For the glory of the Lord himself, and to show our goodwill. 20. We take this course so that no one should blame us about this generous gift that is being administered by us. For we aim at what is honorable, not only in the Lord's sight, but also in the sight of man.
Let's pause on that.
So there were some who tried to disparage disparaging aspects on Paul about, should we send money with him? I don't know, but they had pretty set systems to do this. But what is Paul? His concern is of a couple of things here. What? Not to diminish the administration. My aim is to be honorable to God first, but also there is the perception and perceived among the people. Perception matters, right? Perception matters. He doesn't want there to be an aspect where someone could cast dispersions. And Titus and Timothy, their books talk about that, right? If you're a leader of the church, you should be above reproach. Not just in the church, but from those outside too. Where am I? Verse 22. With them we are sending our brother, whom we have often tested and found earnest in many matters, and who is now more earnest than ever because of his great confidence in you. And for Titus, he is my partner, fellow worker, for your benefit. And as for our brothers, they are messengers, or could be translated apostles, of the churches, the glory of Christ. So give proof before the churches of your love, and our boasting about you to these men. So he's talking about, take up this offering and let it be a good, honorable thing to benefit others. These are trustworthy people we're sending to you to take these from them.
And do it to the extent that you don't disappoint them.
Yeah. Don't embarrass me. Don't embarrass me among these messengers.
Does he mean show them the proof of your love by giving a lot of money?
I don't think so. I think by showing them their heart.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, Mary?
Is the generous gift for...
I think that's for Jerusalem. For the Jerusalem church that was being persecuted.
Christians in Jerusalem were being persecuted.
Yeah. They needed help.
Lost all property, and so they were poor. They were broke.
Yeah. They needed the help, and it was
good, right, and salutary that the church in other locations of. And, you know, what does that say about, you know, there are Christians being persecuted around the world. We should help as able. Okay. Anything else? We are booking today. In spite of my dad being here.
Chapter 9. Now it is superfluous. You don't see that in translations. Unnecessary. It would be another way to put it. Superfluous. I think that's a word of the day now. Superfluous. For me to write to you about the ministry of the saints, for I know your readiness, of which I boast about you to the people of Macedonia, saying that Achaia has been ready since last year. Your zeal has stirred up most of them. I am sending the brothers so that our boasting about you may not prove empty in this matter, so that you may be ready, as I said you would be. Otherwise, if some Macedonians come with me and find that you are not ready, we would be humiliated. Don't embarrass me in front of the other church. To say nothing of you for being so confident. So I thought it necessary to urge the brothers to go on ahead of to you and to arrange in advance for the gift you have promised, so that it may be ready as a willing gift, not as an exaction. So what's he saying there?
They're going to come to the church. He doesn't want to embarrass us and say, you know, if you go up to stand and say, let me back up. How do many give in the church? It's usually what's in your pocket or what's left, especially when you used to pass the plate around. You see a couple of pews in front of you. I'm like, okay, I need that much for lunch. Okay, here. And there's no thought or anything to it. It's just I'll give God what's left instead of what's first, right?
And one of the ways that he's saying,
look, let's not deal with that.
think about it, pray about it,
do it beforehand, have it ready. When we come there, then it can be a joyful gift saying, here, we want to help out the church in Jerusalem. It's a good thing. And the fact of the matter is, and I'll get into this in a little bit, in our giving, it should be a thoughtful process. It should be a prayerful process. Not just a, well, I feel guilty, or the plate's close by, or something like that. That's not really the way that's not showing the best of our heart.
So what if you give but you're not cheerful about it?
Well, you're reading ahead. You're reading ahead.
Actually, that does come right after this. And yeah, that's verse 7. And cheerful is not the word that you think. The word in Greek is hilarion. Yeah, that's where we get the word hilarious. Hilarion. That's the word. Yeah. It should be, hey, I get to, I want to. It's the aspect of we can never outgive God, but we should always have the desire to try to. Right? We know what we have been given in Christ. We know that we have been given salvation and everlasting life and forgiveness. How could that not well within us? Lord, thank you so much. How could I possibly here? Right? That should be a part of our process, not to be grudging. It's all His. I would be nothing without Him. I am His. All of this is His. Right?
I guess what I've always tried to remember is when I'm tithing, to be careful about it, mostly because I need to remind myself that it's all God's to begin with.
Yeah, we're just stewards.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's not ours.
It's not ours.
We're giving Him something back that already belongs to Him.
Exactly. Yeah, the whole aspect of, like in the Old Testament of 10%, it's 100% His, it's really generous of him to say, hey, you know what, 10% of that, let's keep this way for the betterment of life. I mean,
But we see some of that also at the pantry, and I try to tell myself, don't judge, they're a joyful giver, but they will bring us food from home, and it will be expired, or packages that have already been opened.
yeah.
It's hard to not
Yeah.
judge because, I don't like giving people, when we give at the pantry, we give what we would eat. And if you don't think it's good enough, then it's not.
If it's not good enough for you, then why would you want to pawn it off on someone else?
That's right.
Right, yeah. And the Crisis Center gets donations like that all the time too. Yeah.
Dirty clothes, thank you very much.
Yeah, and
Some stuff that, I mean, you certainly wouldn't want your kid in, or I mean, yeah. But you want to be thankful of a heart that wants to give, and you're hopeful that their heart was in the right place. Sometimes you wonder. But, yeah. Exactly.
Is he, it almost seems like even with these words, he is applying a little pressure because of the amount of people that he's sending, because this other famous person as well as Titus, and then there's at least one other that he's sending.
and it's going to reflect on him too. Yeah. There does seem to be a little.
Yeah, he said, don't embarrass me.
Yeah, don't humiliate.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems pretty plastic Paul.
Right? Let your heart be there.
It's acceptable if your heart's there and stuff like that, but look, carry through on this. Yeah, do
Make it good.
Yeah. And so it's, I'd say, not compulsion, but encouragement. Strong encouragement. Yeah. So let's look at that verse 6.
The point is this: whoever sows sparingly will reap sparingly. Whoever sows bountifully will reap bountifully. Each one must give as he has decided, and that gives the connotation, decided beforehand, not just whatever's left. Decided in his heart, not reluctantly, not under compulsion. For God loves a hilarious, cheerful giver. And God is able to make all grace abound to you, so that having all sufficiency in all things at all times, you may abound in every good work. I'm just looking at the time. Okay, yeah, we can finish the section. All right. Every good work. As it is written, he has distributed freely, he has given to the poor, his righteousness endures forever. You know what that's from? That's from Psalm 112. He who supplies seed to the sower and bread for food will supply and multiply your seed for sowing and increase the harvest of your righteousness. You will be enriched in every way, to be generous in every way. That's a great sentence. You will be enriched in every way, to be generous in every way. You're not just enriched in every way so that you can benefit. You're enriched. You are blessed to be a blessing. You are enriched to enrich. Why? So through us, it will produce thanksgiving to God. For the ministry of this service is not only supplying the needs of the saints, but is also overflowing in many thanksgivings to God. I mean, what do you say? You were able to present a check to another ministry or something. It's like we can all celebrate. We're thankful for this.
So, I had a preacher say one time that your tithe has to go to the church where you're getting your refreshments. What if I want to give my tithe to the pantry? They need it right now.
There is no hard and fast aspect of how and where we should get.
It's a need.
It's a need. That said, I think it makes you should never forget your local congregation where God is feeding and growing. Right? And those congregations should be about the will of God and doing the work of God and giving also. Right? I think it's a good practice to give a tithe to the church where you're being fed and give your offerings over and above to other ministries that you are close to. That's not to say that that's not a hard and fast rule, that's not this must be the way, but I think that's a good, right, and salutary way to do it.
Well, in fact, here and most other places, the money that you do give to your church is also dispersed to other organizations.
Not all churches do.
Not all churches do that. And by the way, I know that there are some church workers who say, look, I give my life to the church, and that's my tithe. No, it's not. Yeah, we're to give time, talents, and treasures, and that's a call to all of us. Yeah, Jen and I give. It's not okay. I could make more in the private sector, and therefore, really that difference. That's my gift to. Shut up. That's a cop out. I think it is. I don't think that's being proper.
But I like the hilarious thing.
You like the hilarious thing. All right.
You're just so imbued with the spirit of God that it's just hilarious.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great if when you pass around the plate or something, if you still did that, people were just laughing as you pass the plate around? I think there's a lot of congregation that probably would appreciate that either. But I think it'd be pretty amazing.
Or you pick up the plate and look at it and say, okay, we're going to do this again.
Ushers, lock the doors.
I know of churches that have done that, not like
There are churches that I believe that.
Oh my goodness. Or people, personalities on TV that if you don't raise a certain amount, that the Lord's going to bring me home. Remember that, Oral Roberts? Yeah, it's like, well, let's see if you are a true prophet. Let's pull it up. No, we're not getting started on that. Okay.
Well, at some point you can imagine that God was cheerful. God was overwhelmed and rejoicing for what He gave. He gave His only begotten Son, and it brought us back to Him. So I imagine
That we get to be with Him. I mean, that certainly is His will.
Sure.
Yeah, His desire.
I mean, He gave with a joyful heart too, didn't He?
I'm not sure Jesus had a joyful heart all the time. I think He was joyful at the result, and that's why He did it willingly.
Sure.
All right, we're gonna pause here on. We're gonna come back and have verse 6. So we'll recover some of that.
Whenever you get back.
When I get back, or without recording, but there will be no recording next week and maybe the week after. But we will pause there.
I want to say real fast because that jogged my brain about passing it around. And then one of the churches that we were at in Kenya on a Sunday, they had their regular offering time, and then after that they had a gentleman that came up and offered a chicken to auction, and they could have additional.
There are some places that still have some of the pastor's compensation being
livestock. I mean, that still does happen.
It was just funny that you're done with the service and then all of a sudden you're having an auction on a chicken.
Okay.
Let's try that.
Hey, there's a rooster out here somewhere.
Yeah, we have a pit right out there. We don't even need to auction it off.
We can just have a fellowship meal.
The church we came from, in partnership with other Christian churches in that town, had a piece of land that they raised crops on and then sent that to Central America.
The money from the crop?
Yeah, the money, I don't know if it was the money or the crop itself, but
My first congregation, there was a member who was a truck driver, over the road truck driver, he was gone most of the year. But at the end of the year, he would always pay all of his tolls for the entire year in cash, and then all the change he kept. So at the end of the year, he would bring in just heavy, just huge amounts of his his change. And that would be his gift. I'm like, okay.
That adds up pretty fast.
It does. And it was not easy getting it out of his vehicle to bring in and get that to the wrap into the bank. All right, let's go ahead and
receive the blessing. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you with favor and give you his peace. Amen. God bless and have a good week.